All right. Yeah. So hi everyone. So we'll be starting the session right now. So we'll be starting with the introductions first. So I hope I'm audible with everyone. All right. So myself, Priyanshu, I'm a PGP1 student at IIM Lucknow. I did my undergraduation from Shahid Sukhdev College of Business Studies, and I'm a fresher here at IIM Lucknow into the MBA program. I did a course there called BFIA, which is a Bachelor's in Financial Investment Analysis, and I'm also like completed level 1 of CFA and FRM both. So coming from a hardly finance background, and here into an MBA as a fresher, it's a very interesting experience. So that's about me. Most likely, the others will introduce now. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, Hi guys, this is Shalini. I'm another engineer in town, but a total marketer at heart. I have 3 years of work experience. I'm an electrical and electronics engineer, and I worked at Solitone Technologies for 3 years. In these 3 years, 2 years I was a software developer, and then 1 year I was into digital marketing. That's all about me.
Hello everyone, I am Vaidehi. I hail from Surat, Gujarat. I've completed my BCom from South Gujarat University in Surat itself. I scored a 99.42 percentile in CAT 2021 and then joined IIM Lucknow last year as a fresher itself.
All right. So now what we'd like to structure this way in this man that we'll first of all be telling you about how our interviews went, what were our interview experiences, and then maybe post it we'll give you specific insights about what we think this PI process and the prep stage should ideally be about, and how you can go about preparing for your interviews, and then maybe give some time for Q&A addressing your doubts, queries, etc. And then maybe give some time for Q&A. My interview first of all. So my interview broadly revolved around the kind of answers eventually that I wrote in the initial guide. I also had this doubt whether these people read these answers or why management, etc., that we write. But at least in my case, they did, in the sense that I talked about a few case competitions that I did with my undergraduation in mergers and acquisition. And like post my introduction, my interview actually started on that note, that they himself, told me about that you have written about mergers and acquisition. Can you tell me what's the difference? So yeah, it started on a heavily finance background note, in the sense that they wanted to tell me about what's the difference between M&A. Then they asked me, what are different due diligence that companies take into account. They wanted to also gauge about what my current GK is about. So in that sense, they asked whether you know of any current deal that's happening around. They revolved around whether any financial or any different types of due diligence, whether it happens or not. Post it, they were asking me some broad generic questions, right? In the sense that, do you follow markets? Do you follow anything? So that was something that I also talked about in my interest. So they picked up that and questioned me about different types of mutual funds and all different techniques in markets, some market related terminology or of that sort. So it started on a finance note, but broadly I was able to answer. There were two panelists. There were three panelists actually in my interview, and we didn't have a VAT round specifically last year because it was an online interview process. But it was based smooth in that sense. Then lastly, it was a bit of a hygiene round where they asked me something which was I didn't expect actually, was related to two saints of India. So it can get as random as that. They wanted to ask me whether you have any knowledge about any saints of India. So I said, yeah, Swami Vivekananda and Mr. Ramakrishna, like Ramakrishna. So then they asked me a bit about, do you tell me what's like, we had a discussion on the Chicago meet of Swami Vivekananda and what it was all about, the Congress of Religions. So a bit of discussion on that. Then it was more of a hygiene check only lately, that they asked me about what my other calls were and how the process going on. So overall, it was a very short interview, but like the experience in itself, they checked out my subject knowledge and then some general awareness related to different, what's happening around, and some hygiene check related questions, which can be any random for anybody. That was for me going forward.
Okay, talking about my interview, generally the process at IIM Lucknow has 3 stages. One is document verification, and then you'll have the VAT and then PI. Like Priyanshu said, in our year, we do not have VAT. But generally, VAT is written ability test, wherein they will test for your ability to write and then your way of structuring your thoughts. These are the two things. And the most important thing is you have to be very crisp because there's going to be a word limit and also a time limit. And talking about PI itself, I'd say it can vary quite a lot because in my time I had given interviews to many colleges. I'd frantically applied to many colleges and each interview was different. So there's this perception that if you're a fresher, you'll be asked only on your college, or if you have work ex, you'll be asked only on your work ex. But I would say it's a myth. It applies majority of the times, but there can be times when it changes. Talking about my interview itself, so I had applied to PGP-SM. There's a program called Sustainability Management in Lucknow. Apart from that, we have the mainstream PGP as well. I had applied to both. So my interview began with the professors asking me why I had applied to SM, my reasons, and if I knew that SM actually is in Noida campus of IIM Lucknow. So they went about asking me if I was aware that it's going to be in the different campus and what I knew about it, and why I would choose SM and what my priorities would be. So here, one protocol I'd give is be very honest with the interviewers, because they have seen generations of students, so they know it clear well when you bluff. So I told them clearly that PGP would be my first preference, but if not, sustainability management is something that I am genuinely interested in, thanks to my work experience. And they got it. And finally, it sailed through the my domain of interest, and we talked about marketing. And any questions I had, we started talking about Prism, which is the marketing club at IIM Lucknow. My interview was pretty short. There were two interviewers, and it was hardly 10 minutes long. And I think that is the kind of time that they want in order to gauge you. It can be as short as 10 minutes or as long as 30 minutes. So it's all about how prepared you are to impress them within the short time frame that you get. It's all about marketing yourself and showing them how interested you are in joining this program.
Okay, so next I'll go with my interview experience. So I was interviewed on the first day when the interviews of IIM Lucknow actually began. So whether you consider it a pro or con, but I didn't have any previous interview experiences to go through while appearing for my interview. But it was all good for me. It lasted for about 7 to 8 minutes, and it didn't seem like an interview. It seemed more like a conversation. It was about it wholly revolved around whatever I've done in my life till now. So being a fresher, the questions that were asked to me were mostly relating to my undergraduation. So they didn't ask me any direct theoretical questions, but again, as I'm a commerce graduate, so they asked me about my view on the current economic scenario of the country. What do I think about the inflation rate going forward, and those economic questions. Other than that, one good thing that I loved about my interview was that it started with tell me something about yourself, and that gave me an opportunity to talk about things that I am comfortable with. So it was a good start. Next, they asked me about why I am opting for an MBA without WorkX. So all these are basic HR questions which you do prepare before appearing for an interview. So other than that, it after the economic questions, it ended with one technical question around accounting, and yeah, that was pretty much it. And it was very conversational, very chill, and it didn't seem like a stressful interview at all.
All right. So now, like, just giving one shot at what I think that interview preparation is all about, and how you can say in the next one or whatever time you have before your Lucknow or any other interview, maybe focus on the preparation part, structure it a bit, and prepare as much as possible. So I personally believe that interview preparation is broadly about three major things. One is preparing for your general knowledge, be it current affairs, be it some static GK. Like that is one major component. Another is your subject knowledge, which is essentially whatever you've studied in your undergraduation or before that, be it science, be it commerce. And the last stage is about HR. So talking about a bit about, all three major headers, at least in my way, would be when we're talking about, say, in the first sense that, preparing for current affairs and GK. Like current affairs and GK in itself is a very wide topic, and there is no standard way around it to like how you can try to cover it down. So one prototype of what I would suggest you to go about it is that you understand that static GK is also something, or GK in itself is something. It's not complete. They'll completely ask you something which is completely out of unrelated. So in the sense that when you're preparing for interviews, you can try to understand that what's happening around you, be it the current affairs, the current issues, anything that they would expect you to know about, say in history or geography, would be related to that only. Say if there's a conflict happening in any major state, some what's happening in that, and that related questions could be asked. Similarly, in geography, let's suppose you're giving an interview which is you're coming from a state which is like, let's suppose you're coming from Karnataka or you're coming from Delhi. They expect you to have an understanding of where Delhi is located, what's the history of Delhi. So that geography also, in the sense that where the institute is located as well as where you are located, that's something that you can focus upon, because that's something that you should prepare upon. Then current affairs, it's a massive important topic in the sense that you have to go through that in a very continual basis from today onwards to wherever your interview goes on, because there's no way around it. You have to just work harder and harder to understand the issues, and it's like for your VAT preparation as well. What you need to do is understand what are the major issues, what are the major headings, then make an opinion on it, right? Understand the facts and then try to make an opinion. And one thing that I'd suggest is, write it down. Like I personally made notes throughout that phase. And although some people might do it without it, but I personally feel making notes help. So that's one way you can go about your GK and current affairs prep. Then with regards to subject knowledge, majority of my interview revolved around some things which are related to my subject knowledge. Be it in finance, be it in engineering, whatever your domain is, try to understand you have an understanding, say 5 bullet points of every subject that you kind of studied. I know there are a lot of subjects that we study in undergraduation, but even if you can say, let's suppose you're asked about what did you study in subject X, you should have an answer. So in that way, at least do that level of prep of all the subjects that you have an answer of this question. That what did you study in subject X? Say they take out a subject, any random subject from your mark sheet. Stats prep is needed for all subjects. I can tell you about a bit more about commerce and like economics related fields. So in that sense, statistics, economics, and finance are the major buckets where a lot of questioning happens. So these are the buckets I'd request you to prepare more in depth. In terms of, say, in finance, you can prepare about like different aspects related to markets, related to derivatives, related to valuations a bit about cost of equity and portfolio theory. A bit of detail is required in the major bucket. Be it in economics, I guess Vaidehi will tell you a bit more about economics as well. Stats also, all these are the major headers you can prepare about, and like have a cursory understanding of all the other subjects as well. Say 5 headers at max, 5 bullet points in that sense. And lastly, with regards to HR prep, again, it's your personal life story. And as Shalini mentioned, you have to be very true about where you are coming from. Because even if you try to lie and fake a story, the interviewers are smart people. They'll catch it up. They'll ask you two back-to-back questions, and suddenly you'll start faltering if you are making it up. So try to be as honest as possible. At the same time, be presentable. The balance lies in being presentable as well as being honest. And that's where your hard work, your mock interviews, or whatever preparation that you do in this phase will make a difference. So that's what I personally believe. You have to ace your GK. You have to have a very good understanding of your concepts, and yeah, prepare HR, because HR is the only compulsory thing that will happen in any of your interviews. Moving to Shalini.
Okay. So there is a question. There are a few questions. I think I'll answer them. One is, I'm an electronics engineer from BITS. I'd like to know how deep I have to prepare in electronics related questions. And you've been working for 2 years. Perfect. So this is quite similar to my scenario. I would say it depends. It really depends. That's the real answer to all interviews. But let me tell you how it depends. So consider the scenario. If you are an interviewer, what would you ask to someone? You would look for something similar in your backgrounds, right? If I am a commerce graduate and the candidate I'm interviewing is also a commerce, it will be easy for me. So I will start. The motive of me digging in his subjects is simply because he's gone through it for 3 years. I just want to know how useful he's made those 3 years, because that will be my basis of judgment of how he's going to behave in the 2 years in IIM Lucknow. So this is very simple. In case you have different backgrounds, so they're going to talk about generic stuff. If it's going to be on your work ex, on generally we call these things HR questions. Did you have any challenging situation in life, or what is your weakness? Tell us about yourself, and all of these. So these are the general stuff they would like to go about, in case they don't find anything common between their background and yours, so that they can't dig deeper into stuff. Or the third one is current affairs. When current affairs comes is when your backgrounds are completely different, right? So in my IIM Lucknow interview, I was not asked anything about electrical and electronics engineering specific. But in my Code interview, it happened that the interviewer was an electronics and instrumentation. So she was from instrumentation background, and she grilled me completely on my triple basics. She was asking me what's Kirchhoff's law, what is a resistor, what is an inductor, what is a tank circuit. So it can go in depth like that also. She was asking me practical applications for piezoelectric generator and all of these stuff. It can go very technical if your interviewer is also from a similar background. And whenever you answer, one thing I would say is always give them examples, because even if you know, they're not looking for conceptual knowledge, because you've crossed that stage, right? You're going to be managers in 2 years, so what they expect from you is the application side. Try to answer everything with a situation or an example to substantiate your point, to show them your perspective of things. So that is one thing. And how tough is it to make the IIM Lucknow? I'd say as tough as it is to make to any institute. But being very honest, you've crossed CAT, which in itself is a very big achievement. Usually, when we look at the interview call ratio to the conversion ratio, it's more like for every seat, they release calls to 4 to 5 people. So the conversion is out of 4 or 5 people, only one of them is going to get that seat. To ensure that you get that seat, a simple calculation you can make, you would have gotten a score, which is called the composite score. Until now, what is your score? Based on your CAT, and then gender diversity points, and then your background, education diversity, and all those points. Every institute has it on their website. Try calculating that. If not in your shortlist, if you did not get that score directly, yeah, calculate that, find out what your current score is, and check the conversion scores of the previous year. That would be the best judge for it. Okay. And agriculture and engineering. So again, so you were also asking a similar question. I would say from what we see here, agriculture background people have good scope for ABM, as long as you know your stuff, you know what the basics of the sector and the domain. Like we said, the common prep is your college background, and if you have work know something about the industry you've worked in, who are your competitors, what your company does. If you know all of these stuff, it is going to be smooth.
Okay, so one thing that I've heard people say is that why do the interviews ask such random questions? So, for example, in one of my interviews, I was asked the meaning behind the name of my college. So, people do ask that why do these questions come, but again, at these times, it is important to understand the psychology behind the interviewer's perspective. So, one reason that I believe for asking such a question by the interviewer is that the place where you spent 3 or 4 years of your life, are you inquisitive enough to ask questions about, what does the title of the college name means? So even in case of academics, say when you want to know that what is the extent to which you should prepare for your academics, for the first thing that you can do is try to understand why does the interviewer ask you academic questions. The reason is that what you have said, the 3 or 4 years of your life which you have spent studying your undergrad subjects, the interviewer really wants to know that have you actually what you have pursued in 3 4 years. So understanding this basic psychology behind the different questions that come up is very important, and that will be the greatest answer to the extent to which you have to prepare for different things. And as Priyanshu also mentioned, the three major buckets for interview preparation, I guess he covered current affairs and GK in a well manner. It is very important to constantly read newspapers. So I never had this habit of reading newspapers, but since I finished my CAT, I made it a habit to start that, and that really helped me in my interviews, because current affairs is a very important topic of discussion in any interview, because that is something which you and the interview have in common, because what is going on in the world is common for you both. It might happen that the academic background of the interview is different from you, but again, the current affairs is a common thing. So that can be a very good topic of discussion for you in the interviews, and you can actually leverage your information about the current affairs in your interviews. The second thing, what I did for my academic preparation, so as I was a fresher, I had recently studied those subjects, so it was not as if I had a gap in between my education, so that helped me a bit. But again, it is very difficult to revise all that you had studied in all those 3 or 4 years in just that 1 month before the interview. That is practically impossible. So what I did was I made a list of the major topics that are very recurrent in my in my undergraduation field, and I made sure that I know the basics of all those. Again, it is not possible to go in depth for each and every topic, so I just made a broad list and tried to cover the basics of every topic. And third, talking about the HR answers, I mean, this is a section which can make or break your entire interview, because if you are very thorough with what are you doing and why are you doing it in life, you will be very confident talking about the same. So, this is a section where I personally don't suggest writing the answer word to word while preparing the answers, because this is something that should come naturally. So maybe think about the various questions that can come up. For example, why MBA? or why the switch from engineering to MBA, or any such question, and then try to think about it when you're sitting idle, when you're sitting free. So instead of writing those answers down, it is better to speak those up and standing in front of a mirror, or just actually thinking about the answers as if you're answering to yourself, and actually thinking about them to yourself. So that will be a better help, instead of spending time on writing each and every word for those answers.
Yeah, answering, like, just answering a few more questions, and then like just sharing one idea about how I think, even like, even though we didn't have VAT, matlab, there was chances that the VAT might happen, although it was later clarified that VAT might not happen. But they were there in some exams that there was an essay writing or something, so we can also maybe give some tips regarding that. Before that, so there were some more questions regarding how do you put forward your interest towards any field, specifically, be it finance, be it even like for the engineering stream, for people if they have a idea and they want, like, many times it happens that we inherently know what are our strength areas, even in our courses, even in like whatever we've studied or whatever we've done, we know, like, for example, if you're good at analytics, you know it. If you're good at finance, you know it. So that's what many of times people want, that they want to put across that side of themselves, where they are more comfortable, where they're more confident. And one clear way about doing that is generally whatever you have done, right? In the sense that if you come from that background, if you come from that work ex, that's a clear idea the interview gets, that okay, you are interested in that field. But another way where you can actually go out around and show it is through our introduction itself. So like I in my like somebody was asking, how do I put across my interest in finance? So in the answers itself that I gave in, I was trying to put across that interest. Even in my first answer or second answer, that's where you give hints to the interviewer, which if at all they catch up, that's where you land up at your strength areas. And like it's also like you need to understand and thoroughly evaluate whether that area in itself is good for you or not. For example, if you're saying that you're good at finance, these people are way 10x more good at you, right? Good than you in your domain. Like I have been at interviews with people who I said they're good in finance, and they asked me things as as remote as how a capital market line is calculated, how it is alpha beta, how do you evaluate mutual fund stocks, how valuation is done, all different models. So these are very smart people who are interviewing you, and if you are just faking an interest, they'll come to know. You should have a very good in-depth knowledge about that domain. I actually did it from my bachelor's degree itself, but that might not be the same for everyone. So it's very important you have that self-awareness, in the sense that whether this domain is your strength domain or not. And then yeah, you have to consciously try for the interview to land up in that strength area of yours, because if that happens, many times it's a positive outcome for everybody, because if they are confident and the direction of the interview also revolved around the areas where you're confident about, you'll be confident answering throughout, and that eventually creates a difference. Now, answering just a bit about your VAT preparation about, so you need to understand the broader topics. Here, the role of your current affairs, your GK preparation again increases. Because if you're doing your GK preparation well, that's when that is something that will help you in your VAT preparation as well. Because a lot of topics these days revolve around, say, Industry 4.0, what's the use of artificial intelligence in these industries. Topics can be very random at least, but if you have a very good understanding of, say, like as Vaidehi mentioned, if you've been reading newspapers, I'd suggest read one or two more, like more than two newspaper actually, if you can, and just read the editorial portion. Don't waste time reading everything. Be very focused. The 80-20 rules applies, in the sense that you are just scanning the most of the newspaper and trying to read that areas where there's opinion. Because at the end of the day, you need to know the facts, which you can maybe know from there are a lot of people who are doing that. You can try to like make an opinion from video, watching YouTube, etc. But just like know the facts. But making an opinion, that's when when people are writing in these editorials, that helps you. And that is something that it's a constant process. You cannot evolve in one day itself. You can go practice writing. There are also a lot of compendiums available of different coaching institutes, wherein there are a lot of list of VATs and also some standard answers. You can try go through them. There are transcripts of previous interviews that different PI kits are being released. So maybe you can try go through them, understand, and yeah, prepare hard as much as possible. Going to Shan.
Okay. So, a couple of you have asked about gap years. I genuinely say gap year is not a problem as long as you're able to prove that you did something productive during that period. Because even in our classes, we have people who have had 4 years of gap years, even. but they are here only because they were able to give a valid reason. Were they doing UPSC prep or anything, any discourse in your life? Just show them that you use that time productively. Get some certification, or if you have done any internship or NGO work, it could be anything. They just want to know what you did in that time. Be genuine and give them a proper answer of what you have done, and they would take it, because gap year is not a crime. Okay, so it's totally fine to have gap years as long as you're able to justify that gap year. And for okay, for SM, someone had asked about PGP SM. So SM is sustainability management, and talking about the placements, there is a placement report that's released on IIM Lucknow's website every year. You could go through it. Talking about the roles itself, how they differ from the PGP roles, they are more heavy on, mostly you can find consulting, general management, and then sustainability specific roles, because sustainability is becoming a hot topic these days with ESG norms and all of that coming up. So every company is looking to hire people who are able to enable that sustainability for their own company. And that is where we expect sustainability roles will grow in the next 10 years. And that is where the SM course stands very unique. And if you're a maths postgraduate, so I know a friend who was a maths graduate like you. She was questioned more on her basics to draw graphs and all of that. You can expect something from your core knowledge, because we have professors from mathematics backgrounds here as well. So if they are interested, they might prod you more. You can expect questions from maths and some things from economics as well. And towards okay, is there an interviewer towards push? Is there a way to push the interviewer towards what you're comfortable? That's a very good question. So in interview answering, we call something hooks. Okay, there are two ways of an interview to go. One is in the direction that the interviewer wants it to go. The other is in the direction that you want it to go. How do you make it go in the way you want it to go? Simple. In your answers, if I'm giving my introduction, I would not give away the whole information. I would throw in a sentence that during my college, I held these positions of responsibilities. I was the secretary of my AAA association there. I just throw it in their way, small sentences, small hooks, which I know they'd be interested in and would want to ask more about it. If you give away the whole information, like I was the secretary there and I did this, I did that, I learned all this, you're giving away the whole information. So there's nothing for the interviewer to ask. So they'll again jump back to their domain of interest. They may ask you anything that they know or current affairs. To avoid that, always have hooks in your answers. Give small hints of the things that you've done that you know for sure that they might be interested in. If you had a startup, say that I experimented with a startup in my college days, and don't give them the full information. So next, they would be interested. That is human nature, right? You have that curiosity. So they would want to ask you more on that, and that is how you drive them. If you are a data scientist and you have work ex there is so much that can happen with data, right? The world evolves on data right now. So you can speak about the kind of data that you work with, give a hint to them, and see if they are asking you more questions on that. That's how you drive your interview to your benefit. And why do you want to join this IIM? Okay, the popular question. Do your research thoroughly, know about that IIM, like what kind of clubs. In my case, I was hugely interested in marketing, and I still am. So I was looking around with every shortlist that I had. I'd go to that college's website, find out what marketing activities they have, what kind of clubs they have, and all of these things. Find out the niche. For every IIM has its own flavor. Talk to people if you know them there. Ask them about the life there and what makes that IIM stand out. Every IIM definitely is not the same. Every IIM has its own culture, has its own way of living, and find out that niche and answer based on that. Or genuinely, if something interests you about that IIM, or you can even say it's end of the day, it's an IIM, and an IIM is everyone's dream, right? So it's all about how you say it more than what you say. So the way you answer it also makes it interesting. Over to Vaidehi.
Okay, so one thing that I wanted to address is that, as Priyanshu mentioned about his interest in finance, Shalini talked about interest in marketing. One query that many people sometimes have is that, is it necessary for me to point out a domain in my interview? So, when I was appearing for my interviews, I wasn't 100% sure about which domain I'd be pursuing forward. So I had a genuine interest in marketing, but coming from a commerce graduate, coming from a commerce background, I had this question in mind: that is finance a good fit for me? So I was skeptical there, and what I want to say here is that it is not a rule that you have to mention a particular domain. You can always say that you are looking forward to exploring the options you have in the while you will be pursuing your MBA. But again, you need to make sure that you do not come across as someone who has not done their research well, and you are shying away from doing that research, and that is why you are not mentioning a domain. So again, try to make sure that you have a basic understanding of the domains, and then you say that okay, I know these things about these domains, but I'll be making a more informed decision when I join my MBA. So that is what I wanted to address, that it is okay to not have a clear decision in mind as of now. Um, one more thing that I wanted to say, what helped me with my interviews greatly is appearing for mock interviews. So throughout our life, for a person like me who hasn't ever appeared for placement interviews or any interview of any kind, I didn't have a habit of talking about what I have done in my life very fluently. So I had a general idea in mind, but again, as I hadn't ever voiced out my opinion or thoughts, I didn't know how to do it best. So in that case, what helped me a lot is appearing for mock interviews by talking to alums of different colleges, by reaching out to the seniors. And once I was appearing for these interviews regularly, I got to see that my confidence in appearing for these interviews is increasing. And that is a very major factor while appearing for interviews, because if you're in an interview and you seem very afraid and tensed, then the interview can catch it. And in that case, you might end up messing up answers that you are generally confident about and you actually know about. So appearing for mock interviews is one very important advice that I would like to give to the candidates.
All right. Addressing one question. So Prasad was asking that his or her interest lies in polity and international relationship and not finance. So you need to understand that the crux of the matter is having some it does not matter where you're interested, whether it's related to business at all. Like I have seen friends who were very interested in watching movies or like series, TV series, and stuff like that. So they had their interviews driven on that context itself. So for in that manner, international relations, polity, or anything of that manner, right? If you have an interest and you believe that you're confident about it, you can say drive a 6 to 7 minute conversation on that. Go for it, right? Because the thing of the matter is, as Shalini mentioned, it's always two-phased. That if you don't give interviewers the things that you want to talk about, they will give you, right? Which is something that you might or might not want. So that's about that. All right. If anyone has any other questions, they can reach out. So how I am Lucknow stands out is one question by Manohar. So Manohar, again, the thing about I am Lucknow is that the culture that's here, right? It's something that, because we all know that IIM ABCs are the known IIMs of the world, but that's where I am a college like I am Lucknow, because we have the hunger, to deliver and make our name to the best of the IIMs. So that's what differentiates us than many other people. And that mindset, that you have to grow faster and you have to deliver something that the world stands there to look and like appreciate. And that's what something I believe in area. But as such, it's a normal IIM interview, so there are no, like as Manohar was also asking, any specific, just be aware about yourself, your surroundings, what's happening all around the environment. And don't take it from the angle that it's you're just preparing for this interview, or don't link your destination so much, because many of you might not be able to convert your best calls, and many of you might. But we need to understand that the process itself, be it whatever you have done through CAT, be it your PI preparation, it will make you a better version of yourself, which is essentially what we want as a long term career. You might do great things, but just take it from that angle. Having experienced the placement process myself, having gone through here 6 7 8 months, so what I feel that whatever you learn through your PI preparation or CAT preparation phase, it's something that adds a lot of value in your placements, or whatever you'll be going to do in your classroom discussions. So have that thing in mind, that it's not just for that 1 10 minute interview that you're preparing for. That might be for the whole of life. That's what about it.
Okay. So talking about the IIM Lucknow question again, I would say we are known for our academic rigor. So IIM Lucknow, when it was incepted, it was mentored by IIM Ahmedabad. So our curriculum is quite similar to theirs, and Ahmedabad is actually known for their academic rigor, and we are known more for our academic rigor. And a few more bits about IIM Lucknow. Our campus is really beautiful, and it said that our founder did not want high-rise buildings. He wanted a very peaceful and a pleasant campus, and you can't find more than 3 floors in any building here. So we have a sprawling campus, and the climate here is also extreme. You find extreme heat and extreme fog, but it's a very beautiful campus. And apart from that, there is this book called Reminiscence of Hell. It is written by Subra Halder. So he was a 2018 alum who went on to write a book about his journey at IIM Lucknow. Trust me, it's an amazing read if you have the time. And that book was what totally convinced me to go for Lucknow. It made me feel that I want to experience this life. That's how good it is. If you wish to know more about Lucknow, I'd highly suggest you reading that. Reminiscence of Hell by Subra Halder. And going on to a few more questions. As college, how to know names of professors in interview panel beforehand. Okay, it's not a necessity that you know them, but if you wish, there's always every college website has its professors' names under each department listed out. So I used to do that. I used to go about knowing the professors just in hopes that I could recognize the panelist if they are my interviewer. And on the other hand, since our interview was online, you'll always have the professor's name most of the time underneath. So that's an easy way. If you want to do the research, you can go ahead and check the website. All the professors' names will be, with their photos will be listed there. And Anjali Saini has asked, you've been shortlisted for both PGP and ABM. Okay, congratulations on that. Which direction will your interview be driven? It depends on the professor who interviews you, okay, which panel you're allocated to. Because my panelist was from the Noida campus. She was a professor in SM. So she asked me a lot about SM and my interest towards that. So in case your interviewer is going to be an ABM professor, they might be interested to prod you more on the agriculture side. If not, it could be more on your background and your basics even. I'd say prepare for both. Your preparation has to be exhaustive so that you cover all ends. And what topic or theme in VAT and time in which we answer, Vipin. Okay, in our year we did not have VAT. So, but from other colleges in IIM Lucknow we did not have VAT. But other B schools also held VAT last year. From my experience, it's mostly 20 to 30 minutes, and your word limit might be anywhere between 200 300 words. That's the general word limit. On the topics, read up a lot about current affairs. So another hint, if any of you hate going through the newspaper and do not have that habit, it's totally fine. There are many people like you. Try installing a couple of apps. InShots is something good that will give you timely updates, and FinShots is another app that I really love reading. Or there are even podcasts on news. If not, there are Instagram pages. Like Tatva India is something I follow every day, and they post 4 to 5 posts every day about the hottest news. And Hindustan Times. So even the newspapers, they have their own Instagram channels wherein they put bits in posts. If you love going through them, just go to their page and scroll through some past 2 months of content. I think that would be fine for current affairs. And then read up about, be hungry, read about anything and everything that you find. That is how you can prepare for that, because again, it's uncertain. Mostly we expect it on the current affairs, things happening around you or general topics, because they don't want to test you on your knowledge of the topic itself. That's not what they intend to. So they will try to keep it such that many people know about the topic. Okay, what they're trying to look for is your language proficiency, and then your ability to structure your thoughts. And there was another question. There was a person who had asked how much your English proficiency matters. It matters to an extent, because again, you're going to be a manager after this, so you need good communication skills. But don't let that be your bottleneck. Do not think that it is your negative, and don't take it as an inferior part. Prepare well and speak as much as you can. It's your thoughts matter more than your language. Okay, how you present also matters, but your thoughts matter more than that. Focus on that. And how's the placement for ABM? Ayush Nagar has asked it. So here, ABM students, we both have the same classrooms, PGP and ABM, we have the same classes. So the placement is also common. Every company that comes for PGP, almost all the companies hire ABM students also. So it's the same as PGP. You can go through the placement report for that. Okay, spell the name of the Prasad Raut has asked to spell the name. It's SUBHRAHALDER. SUBHRAHALDER. I actually got the Kindle version of it. You can find it on Amazon. Okay, Vaidehi, you take up.
Okay, so even I'll be taking up a couple of questions. So someone asked that do they ask current affairs on the spot in PI as well? So I had an interview where I was asked about a happening which happened the same morning of the interview. So that can happen. So it is advisable to go through whatever is happening daily on a daily basis and also on the day of your interview. And other than that, also adding on to the IIM Lucknow question, I guess Priyanshu and Shalini have covered most of the things. But one thing that really does differentiate IIM Lucknow and what you can mention in your answers as well is that IIM Lucknow is probably the only IIM, if I'm not wrong, to have which has student-run ventures. So we have 5 student-run ventures here, and that gives us an immense opportunity to actually practically learn the theories of business modules that we learn here in campus. So you can actually take up those ventures and invest in them, and you can actually work on them for 1 year. So that is something that really attracted me to IIM Lucknow. And other than that, I have seen a couple of questions about what they Ashish, I guess, asked that will they ask about budget. So again, budget, being from a commerce background, I remember 1 year back reading about the budget in extreme detail, and I was asked about it in various interviews. So again, it is not fixed that you will be asked or not, but again, as it being from a commerce background, as it was something related to my background, so I did expect questions on it, on the budget and all the current economic happenings around the economy post COVID. So all those questions were something that I was expecting, and I was asked also. So yeah, again, even the current affairs that you will be asked in your interview, there is a huge possibility that the current affairs that you can relate directly to your background are the questions that come to you. So they can find a way to ask about the current affairs by relating them to whatever you studied in your undergrad, or the industry that you've worked in. So that can be expectation, and it will be good if you prepare accordingly.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a bit about what Shalini said about how the resources, right? As Shalini has mentioned greatly about how there are a lot of websites, screenshots, etc. Who are doing it in the shorter time. If you don't have that much habit of reading newspaper, which I guess a lot of people don't. So in that sense, I would want to just add a few more. Like there's this podcast by Hindu in Focus. It's like in great detail. So you can try to use Spotify and like go to major podcasts by some major news dailies. There's the podcast by Economist as well, so it's telling you a lot about how global what's happening in the global arena, not specifically to India specific. Then there are two good YouTube channels I personally like. One is Study IQ, which is very good for preparing for current affairs. I guess it's a must for you to explore and try to see what's in there for you to your current affairs preparation. And the other is by Shekhar Gupta, The Print. The kind of interviews and talks and insights that you can generate by watching those videos might be really good. So you can check those out as well, other than the resources that we have mentioned.
Okay, so there's one person who's asked the name of Finance and Entrepreneurship Club in IIM Lucknow. A pro tip, you can go to our website and all the clubs, all the committees, everything is put up there. But to answer your question specifically for finance, we actually have two committees. The main committee is SIGFI. It's an interest group in finance. And there's another thing called Credence Capital, where they take up students run an investment venture. They take money from students here and they invest it and they do the returns. So that's an interesting club. If you get to join IIM Lucknow, that's something you'll love. And apart from that entrepreneurship club, it's called the E-Cell. We have 38 clubs committees all combined. So you can go to the website and check for all of them.
Yeah, and we'd love to hear from some of you from, like, I am part of Credence here, so yeah, we'd love to see some of you guys here in Lucknow and you chit chat when you join. That's all about it.
So Abhishek Yadav has asked, can we expect graduation questions to WorkX people? Absolutely. Like I said, I had 3 years of work experience, but I was questioned on my first year concepts of Kirchhoff's law and all the electronics basics. So it's always good to prepare. To what depth depends, but know the very basic stuff, bare minimum stuff. At least go through them, make notes, or take out your notes if you have time. If you have your graduation notes, otherwise go for YouTube channels. Just watch videos of your concepts. You just have to brush them up. Even though you have work they might want to check your graduation also. It can happen.
I guess that like yeah, so guys, more or less that's all about it. We have tried to keep it as exhaustive as possible, but still, if you guys have any further doubts, want to ask anything in specific about you yourself, you can try reach out to any of us, right, in LinkedIn or Instagram or any other source, right? And we will try to help. But I guess more or less it's about yourself preparing well and at the same time being confident, smiling throughout the interview. All these things help, right? And like my best wishes towards for the interview process. I know you all guys will do very well. So all the best. Yeah.
Okay, a couple of thoughts before closing. One of you have asked, Vipin has asked, how to make our different answer different to IIM. That's by adding your personal touch. Go through the facts about the college, make your opinions, and talk in detail about them. What you liked, and I wouldn't suggest talk about what you didn't like unless the professor asks for it. But I'd say go full on and stack all our pages, Instagram, then what happens in the campus, the highlights, and everything that gives a flavor of the college and what all happens in the campus, the events that happen, and all of that. And the website gives you the more formal side of things in terms of student exchange and what are the opportunities here, all of them. Go through them, make your own opinions, and talk to the make it a conversation. That is a key to every interview. To not make it like a Q&A mode, make it more of a conversation. You can ask them questions as well. You can ask them about things that interest you, and they will be more than happy to answer you. And talking there's something that I wanted to share about VAT. So for VAT, there was one question asking, if you don't know anything about the topic, what to do, right? So this happened to me in one of my VATs as well. The first thing is to always when you start the VAT, explain the topic that they've given you. Go about your interpretation of it, because it may happen that the topic is subjective and it may mean different things to different people. To let them understand how you have perceived it, always write a 2-line explanation of whatever you think the topic is. And then anything similar to that, or it's not like you wouldn't have any idea about it. If you feel it is it belongs to a certain domain, or it is similar to a certain industry, write your interpretation of it. Though that's not the best way to go about it to save your day, this could help. And the general format that I followed for VAT was generally to go about explaining the topic itself, and then identifying the key stakeholders or the factors that affect anything. For example, one of my VAT topics was brain drain. Brain drain is essentially graduates from India moving to foreign countries for higher studies and settling there. You essentially lose all your top talent whom you have nurtured and groomed in the home country, right? In that case, I would explain what brain drain and why it is happening, and who are the stakeholders who are affected. Here, the GDP of the country itself gets affected if you lose the top talent, and how other countries are benefiting out of it, and why do these people want to go. I analyzed that and spoke more about it. There could be a 3-4 factors why they want to move out of the country, right? Either they don't find things challenging here, or they do not find the right opportunities here, or they may feel undervalued, or they're just seeking better life. These could be the factors. Write about them. And then finally, you can give suggestions on how to improve this situation, how to avoid brain drain, what are the steps that the government can take, and what are the steps that individuals as citizens themselves can take in order to avoid brain drain, and give them a conclusion. This should be a general format for a VAT, and be very, very crisp and stay within the word limit, whatever is mentioned. Okay, that's all about it from me. Vaidehi?
Yes, just a couple of parting thoughts. One thing I would want to advise you is that sometimes you might talk to certain alumni from certain college, and you would feel that okay, that person has achieved a lot, and maybe I should build my story in the same manner. So I would advise you to take inspiration from other people's story, but again, remember that your story is different. Your answer to why MBA will be different from your peers. Your answer to your future plans will be different from your peers, and it's okay, and it is supposed to be that way. So make sure that you don't be in a rush to replicate the stories of other people, and build your own story. And when I say build your own story, actually, create a flow of all that you've done in life, and uh, have that mental story of your life ready. One more thing that I would say is that the process, the duration when you will be appearing for interviews will be very tiresome, because the month of February is usually the month where most of your interviews will be scheduled. So mid Feb to mid March is when most of your interviews will be scheduled. In case you have applied to as many colleges as possible, which I did. So I had interviews back to back, and that was a really tiresome process. And considering that most of the interviews will be offline this year, it might get even more tiresome for you. So in those situations, it is important to do two things. One, make sure that you are refreshed before every interview. You don't seem very tired when you're sitting for an interview, because in that case, as I said, you might end up messing up in areas which otherwise you would have aced in. And the other thing would be that in case you have one interview which was not up to your expectations, you might sometimes end up in a situation where you're taking that grudge from that interview to the next one, and yeah, and as a result failing to perform good in that as well. So try to keep your mind calm, and I know it is very easy to say and difficult to do, but it is a very important thing. So what personally worked for me is one episode of Friends between situations when I'm not feeling well. That really helped me. So do whatever works for you, but again, try to keep yourself calm before an interview, and remind yourself that it is okay that to have one bad interview, and you can that does not mean that your preparation was not well, or there is an issue with the way you are taking things. It is completely okay to have certain bad moments in this preparation journey. And one last thing is that really enjoy this journey, because I can safely say that the amount of information and knowledge that I gathered during that 1 or 1.5 months of interview preparation is greater than all that I ever did in my life till that point, because I covered my academics, I covered about my hobbies, interests, about current affairs. So I learned a lot during that process, and you will actually, once you come out of that process, no matter how tiresome it seems like at that moment, once you come out of that process, you will actually acknowledge and appreciate all you have achieved in those 1 or 1.5 months. So yeah, those are a few things, and all the best for your interviews.
Yeah, addressing a few more questions before we close. So somebody was asking that the SOP, like basically the answers that they submitted, that isn't that great. So like, how do we go about it? So like, whatever has been done right now. So for now, what I would suggest you is that let it be. Just go fresh into the interview, prepare your answers well, prepare for your GK and all the areas well, and try. Like, most likely, if it isn't something that you're gonna be quizzed upon, if you like, your first initial answers many times lay the direction in which your interview goes. So try covering up on whatever you have goofed up in your, say, SOP. Try to covering up in your answers, and more or less it's a very unrelated process. Say if you have not done well your answers, etc., you might still be have a very great interview and convert IML. So please go fresh and don't keep that baggage in your mind. Secondly, there was another question around by Vipin, that if we don't have any extraordinary achievement in college, state, etc., how do we go about it? The thing about it is, extraordinary achievements are extraordinary for a reason that not everybody has it. So in that sense, even if you don't have it, it's fine. Most of the people do not have it, right? But in the sense, what you actually attach emphasis and what you feel you have achieved, right, that is where your interview could be driven if you try to put it forward. It's all about you displaying, like, if you think that's as an outcome, like, say, in a long run, if you're above average, right, you might be doing really great things in life. So keep that thing in mind. You need not to supremely extraordinary or the overachiever of the batch. If you're confident about whatever you have done, and you put it across, you're presentable, as well as the same time you're honest. Take a chill. Yeah, it's the process in itself, the things are not very linear, but in the sense that I personally believe that the things turn out well if you keep working hard. So just be positive, be optimistic, and yeah, the things would go around really well. That's my like last tips around. All right, I guess we'd be concluding the seminar now. Like, it was really great talking to you people, and like just clearing your doubts in Q&A. And I'm sure we'll be interacting with some of you definitely, in the next few months once you convert the interviews. Looking forward.
Best of luck, guys. We hope all of you get your dream college and end up in the best B school you have the call for.
Okay, so all the best, everyone. I guess we have tried to cover all the things that we could, and all the best for the interviews.